IDG.
Hi, I'm Kachi.
And welcome to The Square, a podcast where we have honest conversations about life, pop culture, and everything in between with casual conversations from a global perspective.
That's right. So if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you rate, review, subscribe, and share. And make sure you let people know how awesome it is.
All right, let's get into the episode. Enjoy.
Enjoy. Hi, everyone. Welcome again to another episode of Let's Go Where. And today we have a very, very special guest. We're going to be very political in our talkings today. And we have Mr. Chibuike Ngadi, who is a very well-known political economist and also the creator of Ikemnomics. How you doing today?
I'm surviving. That was very flattering. Well known. I don't know. We'll get there eventually.
I know. They'll know you even more with this. So trust me, you're well known.
I say he's up and doing, and he's doing quite well. I say he's doing quite well.
I'm doing my best when I'm not trying to pull my hair out. Of which is non-existent so far, but yes, thank you so much for inviting me back. It's lovely.
Fantastic. Yes, because you're currently a PhD candidate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it sucks.
How is that going? Like when you said the pulling hair out, I feel triggered. I'm not even studying for a PhD, but I know how it is. So how has it been so far?
I'm getting to like a part of the program where I'm finalizing, what my research is particularly going to look like. And the next couple of weeks now, I'm literally in the throes of it right now, making the final touches and everything. And I've been doing this for over a year now, and it's painstaking work. Honestly, pioneering new knowledge is one of the more difficult things that one can do with their life. So I wouldn't if you don't have like a lot of people ask me, should I do a PhD? And the answer most of the time is no, honestly.
Why? Because of the stress?
Yeah, it's not you. And the thing is, you stress yourself 3 years, your earning potential doesn't increase that much. I did it for passion. I did it for the love of the game, man. So, and obviously, I'm privileged enough to have the opportunity to make that choice. If you don't,
absolutely.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, like, there has to be a driving factor for you because I know, everybody knows things have changed right now. The weather is not the same in terms of how valuable PhDs or even any academic credibility used to be before than now. So for you to even mention that with the earning potential and stuff, I can already understand how it is. But your passion can always add a little flair into your progression at the end of the day. So
yeah, in this life, and maybe perhaps narcissistic hubris, but I go into a PhD because I thought that I could take part in creating or understanding our realities, so that we can prefer like solutions for the future. So it was love for Nigeria. Whether the country loves me back is another thing entirely.
No way.
That is to be seen. Please, how long is the PhD anyways? Like when do you finish? When are you meant to finish?
I'm supposed to finish January of 2028. So my research will be done 2027, yeah. And then graduation, I think, is January 2028.
Why is your eye open like that?
It was 4 years.
A PhD, like some unis will do it in 3, yeah.
I thought it's 3. In the UK, it's 3. In the US, I know it's 4. So I'm surprised to hear you say.
The UK is 4. Like in a lot of unis, it's 4. Like it's a lot of work. Like, my parents, sometimes they call me and they ask me, they say, oh, but can you like finish it quicker? I'm like, when you want someone to finish a PhD quicker, you can come and do your own. But if it's my own, just allow me to do it according to my timeline. I beg, don't
because I know that when I said earliest opportunity, I know sometimes it can be longer. It depends on how in it you are.
Especially if you're doing like lab-based research, you've gone to the 4th year, your lab results are not, what you were expecting. No more, you're taking an extra year. You don't have a choice.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Hopefully that will not be what I'm
we hope not. We're not even going to put that in the universe. We're not
are you doing lab-based research?
I'm doing field studies, so I'll be spending quite a bit of time in Nigeria actually.
Oh, so what? Like you doing like primary research kind of a thing?
Yeah, I'll be doing interviews, conducting interviews, archival study, going through like old newspapers, You want to know what my research is about?
Why not?
Yes. Why
It's
not?
What is it?
it's so boring. I actually hate talking about it.
But you chose it. What did you do? No, don't give us that. You don't choose a PhD. It's very much
it's
you
boring.
design how you want to study.
Okay, so there are these things called process theories in public policy. So my PhD is in public policy. And there are these theories called process theories. And basically the long and short of it is like they try and understand like how policy making happens, like how policies emerge, how they stabilize, how they change, right? And like most of them were developed in like the West, in like the US, the UK, Canada, in like, just in Western states, according to Western institutions, with Western understandings of the political reality. And there hasn't been a lot of application to them particularly in sub-Saharan Africa or in the Western or in the Eastern world in general. And then you now coincide that with the idea that like when you speak to people about how policy making happens in Nigeria, forget the fact that almost no research exists on the topic. Like almost all the research on Nigeria is especially in public policy, is extremely descriptive. So it's not that how did this subsidy policy or how did the Electricity Act of 2023 develop? No, it's always why it has failed, why this has gone wrong. It's descriptive. It's trying to explain, what has the aftermath. And I think that one of the things that will help us, effect change is understanding the mechanisms of the policy process. So I'm doing two things. I'm extending the geographical application of these process theories, testing whether they apply in more diverse, governmental frameworks. And the second thing I'm doing is trying to explain, map out the policy style of Nigeria, which no researcher till date has done. So it should be new for sure. There shouldn't be anything like it, and it should be quite interesting.
Definitely sounds like it doesn't sound like anything I've heard before, and it actually sounds quite interesting. Funny enough, it might seem boring to you because it seems like a lot of like hands-on work, but for the fact that it's like a nouvelle approach, I think you have something there. Like people will definitely tap into that. All your explanations have me intrigued. I don't know about you. You think it's boring. I think I want to actually see how you're going to finish this up.
I think I'm good at PR, man. I make you sound better than it actually is. It's a nightmare.
See maybe another PhD. I'm kidding. So now talking about besides your PhD, I don't know if this is like a side quest you already started before, but we know some of us know, but we want to know more about Ikemnomics. We already see that that's like a name of yours mixed with economics, and maybe besides your passion, like what is that, and how did you even start in the first place? Like, was it idea?
I don't know who even came up. I'm not even sure who even came up with that name. It might have been me. It might have been my mom. I don't remember.
Allegedly.
Yeah, it might have been me. It might have been my mom. I genuinely don't remember. And I actually find it extremely cringe now. But like when I started my Substack in like 2020, like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know that it was a final P. Like I didn't know you couldn't change it. So I actually I made my first post in like 2023 or 2024. I don't remember. But I actually made the account in like 2021, maybe 2022. So when I made the account and then I came back when I was finally ready to start posting, I was like, oh, this goddamn name. And then but the reason I started it was because I spent a lot of time in academia, but not every single thing needs thorough academic inquisition. Some things just require a surface level understanding of the facts, and then I can give like a critical explanation of this topic area. And it also allows me to delve into topic areas in fields that I am not an expert in. Like I said, I'm a public policy expert, but on there I talk about monetary economics. I've talked about contemporary politics when I talked about Nigeria, the parliamentarism and presidentialism. I've talked about obviously foreign policy, which is I think this post, which I did not expect, by the way, is the post on Trump is thus far my most popular post. It's the one that people have engaged with by far the most. It's the reason I was on a rise. So it's been extremely successful. But yeah, so I did it to engage. I like to make arguments. I'm not a defeatist person. Like, there's a lot of people who say Nigeria is finished, or Nigerian people can never understand why there needs to be a better Nigeria. African people can never. We are finished. We are done. And I don't. There's a phrase I saw by one of my favorite Twitter posters. His name is Onyen Kuzi. I think he's one of the best. Like if you're listening to this, absolutely you should follow him. And he said
Yeah.
a phrase months ago, and now I have it like on my profile and stuff. He says, why predict the future when you can create it? And genuinely,
Exactly.
that's my own rising call. It's not about what Nigeria is doing now. Is we can convince people that better is possible, and economics is an outlet for me to do that.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And but the fact that besides your own passion, whether it's in public policy or just the love for Nigeria and a better country, you see how everything kind of links up both with your side work, your PhD, your futuristic thinking as to what can be for the for our governmental system. Trust me, you're part of what we need. I beg.
It's a preoccupation.
It's very important.
It's an unfortunate preoccupation. Every day I ask myself, why couldn't you be interested in something else genuinely?
What do you want to dance ballet?
Yeah, honestly, I'd rather it, man. This is more heartbreaking. I've watched some ballet shows and they are pretty brutal in that industry, but somehow I think it would be easier to go through like an elite ballet school than to hope for a better Nigeria. I think it would be.
So I mean, I agree. I think in terms of like as well, like probabilities and which one is the more likely.
Okay.
I guess we'll start from the shallow end and then work our way up to the deep end, right? And we're trying to, because there's a lot of things going on. Obviously the buzzword right now is World War III. Like everyone's like, oh, the world is about to go into chaos. Everything is fucked. We're all gonna die. We need to enlist and all that bullshit, right? But obviously, as people who like to think about things and think things through, we need to just sort of take a step back and look to the Middle East, right? So the smaller issue, well, not smaller, but the initial issue was the conflicts between Hamas and Israel, right? And then that then sort of swallowed up what is left of modern day Palestine, right? And then that then extended to Israel fighting against Iran, right? And that's sort of where we're at today. And then there's talks of a ceasefire, but doesn't seem like it. There was a I saw the video. I saw the video today of Trump saying that we have two countries that have been fighting for so long, and that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. I love, and that clip is just going to literally define the next couple of days or for the week.
I think Trump overestimated himself. Like there's a reason these issues have been issues for millennia. I mean, Europe has,
and that's I think where we start from. Like, how did we? So what is the genesis of the present day issue?
We'll start with. I think it's difficult to go. I think a good place to start is where I think our friends in Israel like to start, which is October 7th. Right, Hamas attacked Israel from the southern border, committed their own version of war crimes, which they frame as resistance, and we'll discuss to what extent we can agree with that framing later. And they took a lot of hostages, and that's that was begun this 18-month long military incursion, and in my opinion, genocide in Gaza. They have killed at least 50,000 people, most of them children. In fact, a report by data collected by Harvard said that there are at least 300,000 people missing in Gaza at the moment. Half of them are children. And the backdrop of all of this war and bloodshed is that many people don't know that Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel does not have an overwhelming coalition. His party does not control government unilaterally. It's a very, very, thin coalition with a couple of parties, most of which are on the far extreme right, which is where you have the National Security Advisor and the Minister of the Economy, who are very, very far right. They want this, bigger Israel. They want to swallow the West Bank, turn Gaza into a resort kind of thing. And Netanyahu himself is actually not that popular within Israel. His war is popular. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people who like to suggest that, Israelis don't want what's happening in Gaza. I think they would be wise to second guess that notion. The war is popular. Netanyahu himself isn't. He's facing huge opposition. In fact, if he stopped being PM today, he would probably go to jail. He's under so many different investigations. And I think that is where we now get this Iran side. So a lot of people may not make the immediate association, but Iran is a sponsor of Hezbollah and Hamas, and also the Houthis in Yemen. So Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and Hamas in Gaza. Iran sponsors all of them, and obviously Hamas has been severely weakened over the past 18 months. Hezbollah, if you remember, at the start of the year, Israel started their incursion into Lebanon and wiped out most of Hezbollah. You might remember the Mossad pager attack where they had infiltrated where Hezbollah get their pagers from, and triggered an attack that made all of them blow up, which basically took out the entire Hezbollah leadership. So all these Iranian proxies have been weakened one by one. And I believe, and most security experts will tell you, that Israel's number one target is Iran. They really don't like them. They're their biggest opposition in the region, and it's an opportunity for diplomatic consensus between Israel and the other Gulf states. Because what a lot of people don't know about Iran is Saudi don't like them, Bahrain don't like them, the UAE don't like them. So it's a meeting ground for Israel, who wants to more peace with its neighbors, with its other neighbors in the Middle East, and an opportunity to your enemy's enemy is your friend kind of situation. And I think so the war in Iran is just this incursion into Iran is based on this idea that Iran has nuclear weapons, or Iran is about to gain nuclear weapons. And I want to talk about the practical angle of that topic, and then maybe the principled aspect, which is Ayodeji would have seen me speak a lot in our group chat. But practically, why Iran used to only have 3% in uranium, and the way Iran's uranium was handled was it was a joint. So Russia would handle a part of it, France would handle a part of it. This was under the JCPOA, or if you like, the Obama-Iran nuclear deal. Trump came into office and said, I really don't like you guys have come with a bullshit deal. I can do way better. So he rips the entire thing up, right? But you have to understand, how Iran got this deal was they promised everybody, they were like, oh, we have a lot of enriched uranium. If you want us to not have enriched uranium, you have to give us a deal that takes away the sanctions. So the world was like, we'll take away the sanctions, you get rid of your uranium. That was the deal. So immediately the deal got cancelled. They started building up the uranium again because they're like, we need to build back the leverage that we will use in negotiations. Obviously, Israel has now framed that a problem of Trump's choosing as this kind of proof that Iran can only be enriching at 60% because they plan on building a nuclear bomb. Iran plan on building a nuclear bomb in the future, maybe, but not right now. And no security expert seriously believes that Iran will develop nuclear capabilities even within the next decade. So,
but this conversation has been going on since like the early 2000s and the late 90s.
Earlier than that,
about
Iran, Netanyahu and bro has been convincing us that Iran was 1 week to 3 months away from a bomb since like 96. So that's something that
we've been going around this whole narrative of Iran trying to get nuclear weapons for the better part of almost 30 years, right?
And why? And this is controversial, and this is why I say I'll leave these comments in public for your podcast, because I know you don't like it when I say controversial things. But
you can say it. You can say it.
Let's work through it together. Why can't you tell me? Maybe play devil's advocate. Why can't Iran have nuclear? Why not? Why shouldn't they have nuclear?
I think even from a moral point of view, I do, because I believe that the whole point of having nuclear weapons is for it mostly to be a deterrent, as opposed to actually something that you would use. That's why everybody in the West seems to have them. Canada, the US, UK.
If Iran had nuclear weapons, would the American attack on their bases have happened? Would Israel have attacked them?
100% no.
So why
it's the reason why everyone has them. It's meant to be some level of deterrence.
So why can't Iran have it? Why is the US against Iran? I think the reason that the US is against Iran having nuclear weapons is twofold, right? Number one, Israel is, a lot of people say Israel controls the US. I think it's actually the other way around.
Yes.
I don't think Israel controls the US. I know it looks like there's a strong Jewish lobby, but people are mischaracterizing the power dynamic, and I understand why they do so. But the truth of the matter is that Israel is the United States attack dog in the Middle East.
And I think it has been very clear since 1947, right?
Yeah.
Since Israel was quote unquote established in that region, right? And it was established for not just America, but the West to have some sort of foothold in the region where they can have some level of quick access to whatever happens within the area.
Exactly.
Right. Obviously, things have improved since then, and now the US are in Qatar, and they also have other quote unquote allies in
I
the
would
region.
agree. I would even argue that all those Gulf monarchies are all Western vassal states, because I mean,
It seems like it.
The Jordanian royal family was created by the British. So was the Saudi.
Yeah.
Well, the Saudi royal, the Bahraini royal family created by the British. The Qatari royal family created by the British. I mean, they're all like, I like to refer to this empire that we live under as the Western capitalist empire, and I think they are all vassal states of that empire. So back to that original characterization, right? Because if you are my main man, right, in a region, say I don't want anybody, like I want control of Niger, and you are my guy in Niger, right? And you have a really, really big stick, right? I don't want anybody else in the region to have a stick that is as big as yours, because I don't want you threatened, because it reduces your ability to be effective to me. So on a purely practical basis, that's one reason why. The second reason why is that when a nation has nuclear weapons, even as small as North Korea, when a nation has nuclear weapons, you can't talk to them crazy. You can't. Like, the US can do anything it wants to North Korea right now, but they are not putting a ship 5 miles anywhere near those guys because they have nuclear weapons. And I think that...
And that is why I say that it's good that everybody seems like it is a good idea that everybody has them, because the reason why the US is able to flex the way that they are is because Iran just doesn't have these weapons at the time.
Yeah, Iran, right. I mean, there are many countries. The US is militarily superior, at least at first glance, to many countries. But many reasons why a lot of people say, a lot of people are quite disappointed in the performance of the Russian army in the Ukraine war over the past 2 or so years. And they're like, oh, the American army would smoke them in a war. I'm like, brother, Russia has enough nuclear weapons to end humanity. The USA ain't touching them, bro. Or if they get touched, just go and make your peace with God, because it's over for the rest of us. Because think about it, everybody promises not to use nuclear weapons at the start, but bro, when that last Russian garrison falls, what do you think those Russian submarines at sea are gonna do? When they hear, oh, Putin has been captured in the Kremlin, okay, let's say America somehow wins and Putin has been captured in the Kremlin, what do you think the Russian submarines in the ocean are going to do? We don't know where they are. None of us know where they are. What do you think they're going to do? I'm pressure for the US. And this is the case for any country that has nuclear weapons, right? And this level of deterrence is what the US do not want Iran to have. It's very simple. They want to make it easier to beat them. And I think that, the Western nations, for better or for worse, they have a bloodlust. What they sweet them, wallahi. They can if they stay like this now and there's no fight, their body will be scratching them. I don't understand it. Genuinely, I don't understand it. And
I think more so America than
No, I think it's the West.
Than the other Western countries, because for me, I look at how much America is spending compared to the next 30 countries. When was the war?
If we make it to 1945 if we make it to 2045 without a world war, which I would already say the invasion of Ukraine breaks that streak. If we make it to 2045 without a world war, I think it would be the first time Europe has ever gone a century without some kind of all-out war. It would be the first time.
Mm-hmm.
They love rat. They love it. They can't help it. Like, I think Europe has been, obviously over resources. I think, when they started, their colonial empires, it was an opportunity for them to kind of like reduce the temperature of those battles, because instead of fighting for the same resources in Europe, they could divide, the resources of other countries all throughout the globe. And now that, colonialism doesn't exist in the same way, they're not able to exploit the resources directly in the same way, they are returning back to their original instincts. I think the exploitation is still happening, but I think they have a tendency to rack each other that they cannot avoid. And I think that's where we are today. It's why Russia and Ukraine is happening. It's why, despite Trump's isolationism or purported isolationism, where it's like, I'm the president of peace, oh, no more new wars, 6 months in, barely a year in, he's bombing another country. This is the reflex instinct of I think the Western American empire. Like, a lot of people are making this argument that, oh, you should have voted for Kamala, bro. Like, Kamala would have made the exact same decision and I tweeted it the other day. I was like, the decision making would have been more methodical. It would have been more sexy. There would have been more. The Hollywood movies after would have been crazy. They would have been mad. But
the only thing I want to add to that is I do think there's a level of bipartisan agreement on Israel. Like I do think that America as a whole, whether or not you're red or whether or not you're blue, you do understand that you need to support Israel as a
Yeah,
general,
because
as a just general rule of thumb.
because there is a
right?
political consensus
So
within.
I don't want to give Trump too much flack on doing that. But where I do think the issues come from is that I don't know whether it was a tweet or a message that came through, and they said that the only people that were aware, that is in Congress, that they were going to do the bombs were the Republicans. None of the Democratic leadership were made aware of the bombing, right? And like I said, it just seems a bit haphazard. And this whole rhetoric of peace through strength, I don't understand what that means. It sounds insane to me.
If you develop,
You know, and I don't know what's going on.
It's why I always laugh when the US comes up with a new fancy missile or Russia comes up with a new fancy tank. I understand the need for self-defense, and obviously peace through strength is this idea that it is by demonstrating military capacity that you then deter further incursions. But honestly, I have a strong instinct, and this is not backed on any academic inquisition of my own. So please, nobody show no back.
He's about to give us agenda and vibes.
I'm just giving you guys the agenda now. I have a strong instinct that it is really difficult to develop the capability to destroy something and not use it. If you have a missile, if you've made a missile, eventually it's going to be a missile in search of reasons to use it. Same with a tank, same with a gun. Like, if I don't have a gun in this house now, the chances that there is any gun-related incidents in relation to me now is close to zero. If there is a gun in this house now, the statistics infinitely skyrockets, and I think that is true. I think the US has spent decades since the 40s, since the end of the First World War, F-22, F-16, Leopard tank, and they are just so overwhelmed with the length and breadth of military arsenal that they are always just itching to use it. It's why they went from Vietnam to first Iraq War, then to the second Iraq War, then to Afghanistan, then from Vietnam back in, like, they have just been getting it. And now their proxy war in Russia and Ukraine, and this one now that they want to enter vis-a-vis as they're with their proxy Israel and their proxy Ukraine. You have all these weapons, all these capacities, and you need to test them. And what better way to test a weapon than in active battle? And what better way to get active battle than to instigate it yourself? And I think that is exactly how the US keeps finding it. Everyone's like, oh, why does US keep finding itself in this war? I'm like, because the politics has been overtaken in the West by not the people. Like I was explaining to one of my friends the other day, I was like, I've been thinking about this idea that we don't, in a democracy, the principal group of people of concern is the electorate, right? The people who are going to vote them in. Those are the people you care about the most. But when this version of capitalist democracy that we are running, the most important people are the owners of capital. And very few people hold more capital than the owners of defense companies. And they have just hijacked the politics. So, like, they need a justification for their existence. They need a justification for their profit margins. They need a justification for their continued capital accumulation, and there's no better way to do that than to continue to instigate new wars all over the globe.
Actually, I think we should try to bring it down to, I guess, Nigeria as a whole. I think we've kind of we flogged the Middle Eastern issue a bit. So let's try to bring it down to Nigeria. Yeah,
Nigeria, my country.
So it's so funny because it's still around the same Middle East now as a Middle Belt crisis because genuinely, like, I mean, everybody's hearing about what's happening in whether it's Plateau, but the most recent one with Benue, Yelawata, and how 150 people plus were killed overnight. So to be honest, to an average Nigerian, I mean, people are seeing it on social media. I want us to be it's just slightly relatable right now. If you were to explain it to somebody that has only like 2 bars of network on their phone, what's going on in the Middle Belt in Nigeria?
For a lot of the crises in Nigeria, a lot of the non-state actors, these terrorist organizations, a lot of it is a mixture of some are communal clashes, some are just full-on terrorist cells, and others are former vigilante organizations that then become terrorist organizations. Now, I don't know exactly which one was responsible for the massacre in Yelawata, but that's just the overall this thing. This farmer header clash has been going on in Nigeria for a really, really, really long time.
But they keep calling it that. Like, is it really farmer header conflict? It feels so simplistic to call it that.
Me personally, I think it's you can't describe it as a conflict when and I'm going to be very careful with my words here.
Please
But
do.
you can't
I
you
was
can't
going to give a disclaimer.
you can't describe it as a conflict. Don't worry, I know where the pitfalls are. I know where the
Mm.
trap doors. You can't describe it as a conflict because what is the most common issue that happens in this situation? A herdsman with his cows encroaches on the private land of somebody else who's farming. Maybe
Yep.
messes up his crops. Maybe
Yep.
stops him from being able to harvest. Tramples on or the cows eat the crops full on.
Which is the more
Yeah.
likely, yes. There's
Yeah,
Which
crowd.
is just, yeah.
Yeah, whichever way, because if there's like 200 cows on your land, it's just difficult to do anything, to be honest. Like, I mean, if you're
Exactly.
yes, even if they don't eat anything, like, why the hell are you here? You're stepping on the soil, you're messing up stuff, like, you understand? So, like,
Mm-hmm.
I think that obviously Nigeria has just never addressed this issue about grazing. Like, where
Yeah.
I'm a huge believer of preserving culture, and I don't think that the nomadic culture of our brothers in the Fulani regions of Nigeria should be undermined or diminished, or that they do not have access to any part of Nigeria. But the idea that you can encroach on private land essentially
Hits.
at any time
Wow.
that you want, regardless of whether that land is a farmland or just an open field, and then you trigger stuff. So then you now have some reprisal attacks where maybe a farmer is getting tired. This thing has been happening to him for 5 years. He has lost his goddamn mind. So what does he do? He poisons the soil on his farm so that when your cows come and perch on his land, they die. Now you know what has happened as a herder yourself. As a Fulani herder, you are like, yeah. So you think you're funny. You go and carry
Exactly.
AK-47 and you go and waste his entire family, unfortunately. And now just imagine, now you've triggered, but this is a cycle of violence that first has begun with an illegality. And not only has it begun with an illegality, it has been perpetrated by the Nigerian state's inability to serve true justice and be proactive in its national security framework. So it's a letdown on all sides, really. It's a letdown. It broke my heart. There were many times where I would read stories about what has happened in last week, and it would just bring me to tears. Really, I cannot imagine the suffering of the people in the middle belt right now, and for the president to treat it with such
levity.
Yeah,
such political ambivalence. I mean, I saw the banquets that they organized. It looked like a wedding reception.
They were vibing and having a good time.
It looked like a wedding reception. I don't know what else. I don't know how else to convince Nigerians that our leaders are not scared of us, and it's a problem. It's a huge issue. We cannot build a nation where our leaders will mess up royally and be like, give them 1 week, they will forget it, and nothing happens. How?
Nothing.
We cannot sustain our country like this. People can, and then you now see Nigerians, and then the nonsense, instead of Nigerians to respond with the accountability that the situation requires, instead some were saying, I'm disappointed with the youth of Benue State. I'm disappointed. They have not picked up guns. They have not picked up this thing. First of all, let's put aside first the lack of empathy of that situation. This is the definition of victim blaming. A guy is a victim of terrorism, and you are telling him that it is his fault. Meanwhile, you have a government that you pay taxes to. You have a government that you elect. You have a governor, you have a police commissioner, you have a inspector general of police, you have a goddamn president whose job it is, who tells you you're not allowed to have guns because he will protect you. And then he leaves you out to dry. And your response, instead of saying, where the hell are you? Where are you when my people are dying? Where are you when my family are dying? Your response is to blame the victims themselves. And it's also redundant and reductive. It's so dumb because it shows a lot of people don't know the history and the reality of insecurity in Nigeria. So many, like the Lakurawas in the Northeast.
I'm sorry to cut you, but is the victim blaming sort of the electorate pitting the populace against each other, or that is generally how the people feel?
I think that Nigeria is wrongly so rife with rugged individualism. Yeah. I level this accusation at my parents and their generation all the time. The roads got bad, you got SUVs. The government did not provide your water, you dug boreholes. The government did not provide the electricity for you, you bought gen. They didn't provide good schools for you sent your children to private schools. If you had enough money, you send them abroad. You have allowed government to abdicate their responsibility, such that when a situation arises, a lot of people forget what government is. It's not that government should be dealing with the biggest situations that we deal with in society because it is available to them. Okay, maybe if government can solve this one, let them do. No. Government is the entity in every society in the modern world that is empowered to deal with the biggest problems that we deal with society. Do you think Dangote,
Absolutely.
as rich as he is, can fight insecurity? The only entity that exists within the borders of Nigeria that can fight insecurity is the government.
Is the
And
government.
to suggest on any level that any blame has to be attributed or any responsibility has to be attributed to individual Nigerians with guns that they don't have, outmatched by the terrorists, that it is somehow their responsibility to confront this terrorism and illegality, is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
But like in terms of like, of course, you know that people are also reporting that, as you mentioned, rugged individualism. Is there anything like, I don't know if I should call it rugged loyalty, because part of the blame game is still like some people are having deep ties, you know, the attackers are having deep ties with political people, political interests and all that. So the system is already kind of riddled with leaks and all that. So like, doesn't that kind of add to it?
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem. I don't know, there was a memo released today, I haven't read it actually, that actually the attacks in Yellowwater, the DSS had intelligence that that attack was coming. And what has happened? Yeah, I'll find it. I'll send it to you guys after. I can have a look on my phone.
I saw this video. There's this video that was trending where some of them came from like on bikes and they were talking to I think it was even a DSS truck or so.
Forget
so
about
you saying
DSS, man. Those guys are not doing anything. See, I don't see me. I'd like to confirm, because if I really say what's in my heart, I might
in
just
your
get
mind.
like if I say what's in my mind, all this intelligent DSS ones. For me, this stems from the lack of political. I will have a look. This stems from.
There's a DSS memo literally outlining that this
memo.
attack was coming. Yeah, there's a DSS memo.
There is a lack of political will for the northern governors and elites to properly manage what is going on in the north, right? Because I just don't fully understand.
DSS also doesn't just have enough resources. Forget about the leaks for a second. They have to pick and choose where they interject and what the decision making behind where they pick on where to intervene. Because their security framework is not proactive; it's extremely reactive. They wait for the strikes to come. They wait for the intel to come. Mm-hmm. They're not embedding themselves in any organizations quite deeply. They're just waiting, right, for the intel to come, and they're deciding. So if 3 pieces of intel coming from 3 different parts of the middle belt, they're thinking to themselves, we're only reacting to one of these. So which one are they most likely to kill the both about? So I think they are spread thin. I think they do not have the level of expertise there's not a lot of imagination in the leadership of our security organizations on how to confront these issues. They are more concerned, and that's because, Jonathan said something in his book that was very, very interesting to me. Mm-hmm. And it leads me to consider the idea that institutions struggle to deviate from their original functions. There's this idea in economics and political economy of historical institutionalism. Is this idea that, I know you guys have ever read the book Why Nations Fail. Is this idea that, but you've heard about the ideas in the book? No?
Yes.
Okay. Is this idea that, institutions are sticky, right? And they are quite path dependent, right? The way an institution is this thing, it's really, really hard for institutions to change. And DSS as an organization, Jonathan had the line in his book, and I remember very little from Jonathan's book, but I remember this line where he talks about the idea that DSS exists not to protect Nigeria, but to protect the government. Right? So DSS is much better at quelling protests, much better at infiltrating opposition parties, much better at giving the president a good idea of who his political enemies and who his political friends are by phone tapping and all of those kind of things. He has way more expertise in that kind of work because he exists to keep the actual government up and running than he does in actually protecting the realm. And I think that's one of the few things and that's why I'm saying that one of the things that we're going to have to reconsider when it comes to Nigeria is the entire governance framework of this country.
But just before we go, let me just we have a very nice set of trivia questions for you. Okay. Are you ready? Let's hope you do better this time than last time.
I did terrible last time. God,
I believe in you. These ones.
My trivia knowledge have gotten worse. We'll see. Okay, let's see.
I believe in you.
So I'm very bad with dates. That's my problem. That's why I always feel trivia.
You guys are about to do thinking outside the square. Ikem, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, first question. What was the name of the traditional Nigerian currency used before the colonial era? So we have A, shillings, B, cowries, C, kobo, D, pounds.
Tradition used before the colonial era?
Yes.
Cowries.
Yes, that's correct. See,
Yeah,
you're up
that's
and
good.
doing, man. First one right. Good for you. Okay, so second
I
one.
think we used shillings in the colonial era, shillings and pounds within the colonial era.
They brought us that, that was what they brought for us, but we used cowries before they brought that in. Okay, so question 2: what is the historical significance of the Treaty of Versailles?
It brought the end to the Second World War, the First World War, and it caused Germany to pay massive reparations to France and other Western nations. Incidentally, was the inception that eventually led to World War II.
Excellent, exactly. As Trump would say, it was a terrible deal. It was a terrible deal. Terrible deal, But yeah, that's great. Okay, so third one. So this one's a little bit tricky. Put the following Nigerian president / head of states in order. Right. So you can either start from the first one, so the last to the most recent. You can do the most recent to the first one, whatever order you like. Okay. So we have 4 of them. So we have Ernest Shonako, we have Johnson Aguiyi-Ironsi, we have Abdul Salami Abubakar, and we have Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida.
You putting Babangida and Shoneko right close to each other is very interesting. Okay, I'm going to try. I'll start with Aguiyi-Ironsi first.
As the earliest.
He's the earliest.
Okay, yes, that's correct.
He's the earliest. And Abdul Salam is the last. So we're going
to... Okay, good for you. You got that, yeah?
Okay, so who...
So between Shoneko and IBB, who was first?
IBB was first.
Okay, so you're saying Aguiyi-Ironsi, then IBB?
Then Shoneko. I know IBB is somewhere in... I know Shoneko is somewhere in between IBB and Abacha. There's one mix-up. There's one... He wasn't president for long, I don't think. I think...
no, he was chased out.
Let me try. I'm going to try and save myself here. So we're going to start... So Buhari takes over in like 83. He deposes what's his name, Shagari and Ekweme. Then IBB takes over Buhari. Then I think IBB in his guise of trying to take it. Yes, it's IBB then Shonekon, because I think Shonekon was kind of a way for him to avoid giving the mandate to Abiola. So I think it's
okay. So run it by me. So first one, Aguiyi-Ironsi.
1966. Cool.
Yes.
July, I think, or February.
And then second, so Aguiyi-Ironsi is first. So second is who?
Babangida after Buhari.
Okay, Babangida 2. Then who's 3?
Ernest Shonekon.
Okay, and then 4 is Abdul Salami.
He's our last
You're sure?
military head of state.
You're sure?
If I'm not sure of anything, it's the middle 2, but the first and last, I'm sure.
Okay, well, you got that right. You did a great job.
Let's go. Got that right, yeah. Guys should not test my night history.
Yeah, I did that just to give you that little bit of a test, because Shonekon, Babangida didn't want to give Abacha men, so he gave Shonekon, and then he went into the night. Maradona thought he was wise. That guy fucked us badly, and
he's terrible.
He fucked us so badly. IBB.
And now that everybody is dead, he's now trying to rewrite his.
No, he can't work. We know. Thank God we know what's up. He's terrible. Literally, he miss his maker. He's literally terrible.
He's criminal.
Okay, so next one. What is the smallest country in the world? We have options. So we have Monaco, we have Djibouti, we have the Vatican City, and we have Eswatini. Smallest country in the world.
I would say the Vatican City or Eswatini.
You have to pick one. It can't be both. You have to pick one.
What was the first one again?
Monaco. So Monaco, Djibouti, Vatican City, Eswatini, and that's it. Monaco, Djibouti, Vatican, and Eswatini.
I don't think it's Djibouti. I don't think it's Monaco either.
Okay.
I think it's either Eswatini or the Vatican. I'm trying to remember. I've never been to Eswatini. I've been to Vatican City. It's technically a great place. It's a protectorate. I would say it's Eswatini.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
So sorry, mate. It's the Vatican. That place is tiny. It's literally like 3 blocks or something.
Yeah, bro.
I've
been to the Vatican. It's tiny as I didn't know. I've never been to Eswatini. That's what got me. So I thought it might be smaller.
I tried to add in African countries, give a bit of flair, to bring it back.
I know it's not Djibouti. I think Djibouti is the biggest of all of them. So.
And then the last one, super duper easy. Who is known as the king of Afro beats?
Fela Anikulapo Kuti.
Yeah, top G.
Yeah.
That's correct. So you see, you did really well.
I thought you were trying to get me involved in one Davido versus Whiskey.
No. Don't worry, man.
I realized
this is a Davido stan account. This is David, man of the people. We love David over here. So I don't even want to hear anything else. I'm a David guy. It is what it is. But yeah, so thank you so much again for coming on. We really do appreciate you.
Thanks for having me again.
I will link your Substack to the episode page and your
Thank you.
X, so people can have a read. It is great, and you'll be able to stay informed and just sort of understand how Ikem thinks about how things are developing. So very, very cool. Thank you so much for having us. Sorry guys, Kachi had some technical issues, so she's not here with us at the end. But but she sends her love.
All right.
Thank you so much, Ikem.